I'd like to begin by thanking the choir and Kathy for that really make you want to dance song. I didn't realize so many of you were from Jamaica. How awesome. And thank you, Tim Marie, for your excellent drawing. Very cool. Very cool. Exactly. I want to mention, for those of you who aren't aware, this Sunday will be the last Sunday that Donna will be with us together. When we went down to where we're going to be living end of last week, and we were heading down Interstate 35, which is pretty much the route to Missouri. We noticed how nice the weather was. It was sunny, like 50, something like that, and we kept thinking, so why do we want to move our household in the middle of December? We started thinking more about it and said, I don't think I have any appointments this first week of November. Maybe that would be a better time to move. And so that's what we'll be doing. We're going to be, tomorrow I'll pick up a truck. We've been packing all week, except me. She's been packing all week. Kelly says to me, why do you always procrastinate? I go, I don't know, I'm just too relaxed, I guess now. But anyway, we're going to be heading down there. I will be flying back, so I'm back in time for next Sunday. And I just want to let you know that if you would like to, say your goodbyes, you can do that with her. And I think I saw something you can sign too, if you want to. So we do appreciate that, and appreciate all your prayers for our transition down there. And you're certainly, of course, in mind as we all go through this transition time together. And anyway, now, this morning I want to do something a little different than what I normally do in a talk. I'm going to give you the punchline to start. Because usually, you kind of build it up to whatever your main point is, and I thought, well, why don't we just head straight to the punchline. The punchline is this: you are right now just as spiritual as you're going to be. Now maybe you're thinking to yourself, I already knew that. I've known that, so what's the big deal? I might as well just go home now, take a nap, wake up in time, 3:30 for the Packers game. Or in our case, the first showing of our house. Please keep that in prayer. Oh yeah. Yeah, the realtor I even texted the realtor last night. I said, we have 3 cats. You want them gone or can they stay? She said, they can stay. So I put Buster in charge of selling the house. But let's just not, go home right away. Not so fast. I have 20 more minutes, maybe 18 more minutes of homiletic excellence to share with you today. Because it's my job to fill this time with valuable, spiritual, inspirational information. But why did I start with the climax of the talk first? This idea that you are right now just as spiritual as you're going to be. I did it again. But I see you're all still seated. Well, almost everyone. Someone had to get some coffee. But thank you. And why are you still here if you already know this truth? Well, even though we may have read all the great spiritual books, you can name the authors. I don't need to mention them to you. Even though we come to church on a fairly regular basis and we understand these universal teachings of truth, we don't always feel what we study. You see, the spiritual path is a path. It's something that we're all walking. And spiritual awareness is not just something that we attain and then we're done. I'm enlightened, and nothing more I have to do, right? Did you ever think about, well, when I get enlightened, then I'll be ready? It hasn't worked out quite that way. You know, we have glimpses of enlightenment along the way, don't we? Inspirations, insights. The truth dawns on us. But life is not an accumulation of these things. It is a path, it is a journey that we're walking. An ongoing journey of learning what is already the truth about ourselves. That who we are, our identity, our spiritual identity, we are as much of that as we're ever going to be. So if we weren't already spiritual, naturally spiritual, would there be any hope of expanded awareness or spirituality as we move along? If we are right now just as spiritual as we're going to be, why don't we always feel that way? And it's a paradox, isn't it? There's the truth, and then there's our experience in life. When we wake up Monday and, we got stuff to do, right? And the reason, as it is with most challenges in life, it comes back to individual awareness. It comes back to us. It comes back to free will. We all have the ability to make our own decisions of how we want to live our lives each day. Material world in which we live does draw our attention. We have to respond to it. It's part of life. And we can get caught up in the living of life in the material world. The good stuff, the glamorous stuff, the glitz of it, and also the sort of heavy aspects of it as well. To the point where we might believe and think that this is the only reality there is. It's just what I'm experiencing now, that's it. And we stand up with mistaken beliefs, kind of creep into that other belief that we all know, right? If we're spiritual, as we're ever going to be, other ideas creep in. And we end up believing that the real permanent aspect of ourselves and of life is all that stuff out here. And so once that belief gets started, and you run into other people who think the same way, and maybe you've got friends and relatives who think the material world is it, this whole spiritual stuff that you're involved with, a little weird. That then becomes a renewing kind of truth, small t, that we sometimes dive into and carry with us. This notion about the material world being all there is. And so it's from that awareness that we sometimes develop a personality that forgets about the truth of our being. Now, there's nothing wrong with the material world. The material world is part of God's creation. It's wonderful. It's sort of the furthest extent of creation. If you think about creation, starting with ideas, starting with spirit, and then coming into a more material manifestation, like this lectern right here. Everything in the outer world has its place here in the cosmos. And so the reason why we don't experience our spirituality as we would like to is because of our attachment to things in the outer. We are just as spiritual as we're ever going to be. But we can also become a prisoner of a worldview that thinks, no, the world out here, that's the real thing. But the good thing is this, is that there's a way back. And that's part of what we teach in Unity. There are these tools that we can use to return back to an awareness of the truth. We talk about it all the time. It's printed on the wall. You walk around, it's on your bulletin. That through prayer and meditation, through working with our thinking process and observing it and changing it, we can come back into an awareness of the outer. But if we think about people who are more attached to the outer world, and they get attached to all of the outer things, and it's kind of like living in a city. I mean, we live in a city here, but it doesn't look like this, does it? I'm not sure which city this is, but you can tell it's concrete, steel, and all of that kind of thing. And so there are people who live in a world like this. Maybe you have in your life lived in a large city like this. And we can get into an awareness that this is all there is to life. That this is the world as it is. Now, occasionally we might go to a park in that city and enjoy a bit of nature there. Until someone comes along and says to us, hey, let's go for a ride in the country. Take a little drive on a sunny day. Maybe see some fall color. And what happens is we begin to shift from this awareness of a very concrete and steel material existence. We get a glimpse of it in the park when we see a bit of nature there. We get out into the country and there's a part of us that just, our mind opens up and says, wow, that's out here? And all we want to do is hang in that natural environment. One of the quickest ways to shift from a material consciousness is to just take a walk in the woods. Thank God in Wisconsin, we got the woods. If you don't have woods where you live, come right here to this church and take a walk back here. You know, one of my favorite places on this property is right there in that grove of pine trees. I remember when I first came here, I went back there and I had my phone with me and I took a video of myself sitting there. It was October. It's like 38 degrees, but I didn't care. Because I was in nature. And my awareness had shifted into this awareness that, you know, spirituality is the real reality of the world. It's not all the stuff that we place on top of it. And I think you're beginning to see the picture. When we look at it in terms of an analogy, material existence is living life like we're in the city all the time. Okay? City's very attractive. It's very magnetic. It's very appealing. But underlying all cities, if we took away all the stuff on top of it, would be what? It'd be the country, wouldn't it? It'd be country. It'd be flat, too, unless it's a city built on a hill. San Francisco. But there'd be country under it, wouldn't there? Nature is always there, regardless of what we as human beings build on top of it. Spirituality is there, regardless of our involvement and attachment to the outer world. It's always lying kind of beneath the surface. Now, involvement in the outer world, in the city, is not inherently bad or evil or undesirable, but it's not the whole picture of creation. It's not the whole picture of life. And we get caught up in the outer, and our awareness isn't grounded in spirit, in all that. We feel a little lost. We feel like something's missing in our lives. There are many biblical statements to support this idea that we're naturally spiritual, starting right in the first chapter of the first book in the Old Testament. God created us according to his own likeness. And further, in the Psalms, we are made a little lower than gods or angels. Jesus said, you are the light of the world. What is that light of the world he was referring to? He's referring to that spiritual aspect of our being. The kingdom of God. It's not out there. It's right here, within us. In the book of Colossians, words of Paul. Christ in you is the hope of glory. And so for us to experience this, we have to begin to believe it is our true being, to act as if it's really true, to try it on for size. And that's the hard part. To get to that point where we really can grasp this truth, feel it in our bones, feel it through all the cells of our body. That's what this path of walking is really all about. And it's up to us to learn to get unstuck from all of that city stuff to get back to the country in our hearts and in our minds. So we're all on this path. Every human being on this planet is on it. And because of your presence here at Unity, in this church, with the ideas that we share here and the principles we follow, there is a natural desire, I think, within each one of us to continually, each day, rediscover that we are naturally spiritual. We don't have to become it. We already are. Remember, you are right now just as spiritual as you're ever going to be. So it's up to us to become proficient at knowing